Hey guys, welcome to today's upload. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. It means the world to me for the age of 42 in my bedroom talk about professional wrestling. Yes, it's evening time here in the United Kingdom, so I can't stress you enough. I know it's not night or day, even though it looks bright and bloody hot outside. Now, I just want to say to every one of you guys is thank you again once again tuning in. Means the world to me when you do actually tune in, and obviously share this around social media. Please do. But I just want to point this out there. The people may think I'm being harsh on WWE and being tribalism with AEW. I just want to point this out as a wrestling fan. How am I being tribalism? I'm just sticking up for the underdogs, you know? Because at the moment, the underdogs are... Oh god, I got hiccups out of the blue. With them going out of the blue, doing what they're doing a fantastic job of doing what they're doing. Yes, I could sit here all day and criticise why in AEW literally put John Moxley in the title picture. Because even though he's in the title picture that people wanted, and he's got the title for longevity in a briefcase, and he's not defended as much as he should be. A lot of people are stressing that towards me. How could I support a company that does that? But I feel like wrestling belts mean nothing anymore because I look at the way WWE doing things. Look what we got for your main event at Money in the Bank. A tag team match with two prestigious titles meant to be in wrestling history. You've got your two tag team main title holders in a tag match, which doesn't make any sense at all. The thing is, when I say about WWE, they're protecting their champions, even though AEW is doing it, but at least one thing that the AEW champion is in action all the time. You know? It just baffles me to think that people don't realise how much of a storyline is going off if you don't watch the product. You know? You wanted Tony Khan to do long storylines. You wanted them to do something interesting. They're definitely doing that. They focus on the storyline towards the Owen Hart tournament. Fantastic tournament. So wide open. You know? Apparently Tony Khan didn't decide the outcome until the very last minute. Hence the raw emotion. I do not blame him doing that. You know? I'm glad he did that because it gives that element of suspense, drama, and everything, bringing out the best in both of the wrestlers. You know? Job well done, Tony Khan, for doing that. I feel like when I look at the likes of Double or Nothing that's just gone, I would look to WWE and go, now top that. And look what they've got. A tag team is their main event. You know, it literally baffles me, right? It goes leaps of bound faith. I've said this for numerous videos. Brock Lesnar was a part-time champion. They need to stop focusing on that. They need to stop focusing on John Cena being the champion. Yeah, fair enough. But he needs to drop the title sooner or later because it's getting really annoying. Because his so-called retirement tour is not exactly a retirement tour. So that's why I look at WWE as well as obviously AEW. Yeah, fair enough. For the moment, I feel like AEW are delivering somewhat more than what you would expect a big company the likes of WWE has been delivering. You know, sorry, I got a bit tongue-tied there, and I thought I was going to sneeze at the same time. But that's what I mean. It's just wrestling belts mean nothing in wrestling these days. You know. I miss the divisions when meant something, like tag team division. You know, you look at SmackDown, you look at SmackDown, you look at the way Raw is. You know, you don't hardly see the tag team titles on either brands. You don't make it feel exciting anymore. The last time I felt excited by a WWE match was the TLC match that happened on SmackDown with the titles. You know? You had something great there. You had something different, but it was on SmackDown. You could have done it on Mania. You know? The IC title United States title. You don't know what you do with them. You just... It's coming into the point where it's like politics involved. You know? And you pick your favourites, fair enough. But the thing is, where I see it, the AEW don't technically pick their favourites, because if they did, they would have been always champion. They pick it how fans react. It's living proof what we saw this past Sunday. You know? Because the way I felt Tony Khan did that, and what rumours and speculation that Tony Khan kept the outcome under wraps until the last 30 seconds. Now, I want to say this. How long that main event match was, it meant something so much to Tony Khan to do that. If it was a straightforward 15 minutes match, you wouldn't have enough time to have the likes of Hangman Adam Page and Will Ospreay to paint a picture-page story. You know? They had a golden of a match, and he was right to do so, the way he did it. You know? You wanted Tony Khan to buckle down and focus on his booking style. Focus on this, focus on that. He's now doing it, and yet people still critique him. The best thing they come out with, oh, he's on cocaine again. I've seen it online. But to say what he put on, Clinic of a pay-per-view, they are back on form, and people are not going to like it, because end of the day, I get excused for tribalism towards AEW. No, I like both brands, but I feel like AEW are delivering more than what I want. You know? I was expecting this for something like WWE to. You know, stop booking it because you're thinking, oh, money's going to roll in. We'll sell because of obviously we're WWE. But then when I say about belts meaning nothing in companies, you know, even though the likes of AEW have a long Jeopardy storyline for getting that belt back from Jon Moxley in that briefcase, at least one thing, he turns up every single week and does what he does. But still, in a way, I feel like belts mean nothing in wrestling anymore. You know, Mercedes Moné could have numerous of belts like she's got, but you've built up a storyline where she's going for another one. That is good, don't get me wrong, but it still means, how to put it, it's not down to the wrestlers to make the belt. You got to think of the history of that. You know, it's like I could compare this to the likes of Manchester United. If players at Manchester United are playing crap like we've had this past season, it's nothing to brag about, I know, but you should be proud of the history and wear that shirt with pride. You know, people always look to the history when it comes to football. Why do you think United's in the way they are? The fans want it the way it once was. That's the same thing with professional wrestling. That you need something like that going forward. But I feel like in the long haul of things, belts mean nothing in wrestling anymore. It doesn't. Because I feel like people don't... Yeah, fair enough, it's a piece of jewellery. Fans wear them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking people that collect belts or wear them. But with wrestlers this day and age, I feel like with wrestling belts mean nothing anymore. You know? Because you can put wrestlers together in a match, have a 5-star match, and there's no belt. And it overshadows that current champion. I feel like that's how it is. It's been like that for numerous years. This ain't just AEW. But you already know they're our champion. Your brand champion you follow. But does it mean anything? You know? And that's what really baffles me when I think about it even now. That even though you got a hurdle to face to get to that championship, the Owen Hart tournament was phenomenal. You know? It was very moving towards that very end of that match. I couldn't get to sleep. I was focused on it. I was exhausted, as you can tell by my review. That's when I thought AEW gives a shit towards their belt. Not just then. I'm just saying in general. You know? That's how it feels to me, that being a wrestling fan, you get captivated in the moment that brings you to tears after that match. And you're thinking, whoa, what a match. That's rare for me this day and age. You know? With that match alone, you've made it interesting for me to invest more money into your product towards that All-In pay-per-view. Because I'm wondering from tonight what storyline they're going to be starting building towards this. If Tony Khan admitted on the media scrum, he's been writing shows for Dynamite since the age of 12, even though he thought of the name Dynamite. He's writing from a fan's perspective, not a cash machine perspective. Even though, yeah, he's making money from it. But he's writing as a fan. That's what I like about it. But that's what I mean. It's like the Owen Hart tournament, Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page. Clinic of a match. Jamie Hayter versus Mercedes Moné. Clinic of a match. But you've got to understand that when I look at the bigger picture when it comes to professional wrestling, certain companies in this world don't think they appreciate the championship. That's why I look at WWE. I feel like they don't appreciate it. Yeah, they put it around certain wrestlers that deserve it. They've been around a while. But you just think those faces, like the current champion at the moment, yeah, he's on his 17th world title. Hopefully it's a young and up-and-coming star that wins it off him. Not someone that's been already around and already done and got the belt before. But to me, I feel like at the moment, wrestling belts mean nothing. You know? Tag team division, not as much in WWE. USA title, hardly see it. Same with the Intercontinental Championship, hardly see it. You're focusing more on the women's IC title than you do the actual main women's title. You know? The women's USA one is being tossed around like a toy. You know? That's what I don't get. And it bugs me to see that actually happen in a company that's been around a while and the heritage that them belts have got. You know? If we look to the past, yeah, fair enough, we'll look to the past. You tell me any different. You know? You may think, yeah, I'm taking swings at WWE. But you would expect this company that's been around for many, many years, a lot longer than what you've actually got, against what AEW's been around 6 years. You know? I look at AEW as a mix between Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era. You know? That's how I see it. Yeah, they may not pull in the ratings, but for me, I'm happy to be watching it. You know? But wrestling belts mean nothing in wrestling anymore. To a point. You know? It annoys me to say that. To even sit on a video and talk about it. You know? When I look at when I look at the longevity of it, I just, it baffles me because you look at the way, I know I'm bringing them up again, WWE. You literally look at that, right? Worlds collide. Yeah, fair enough. This is another example. You took NXT off, technically off the poster. You've taken the advertising of them. You've literally cleanly taken them off, and then out of the blue, you literally found faith back into them, and then out of the blue, after NXT last night, you've pretty much made 2 matches for Worlds Collide. Where's the storyline? It may be an exhibition, PLE or whatever you want to class it as, but you should have at least had a storyline. Was I shocked that Stephanie lost her women's title last night? No, because she's going to the main roster soon. So does Jordan Grace, which I can see that happening. It proves one thing: if WWE, if they don't have faith in NXT, they think they can rival the likes of AEW, putting their shows on at the same time. Okay, that's fine, but it just bugs the hell out of me that I feel like WWE don't know what they're doing at the moment. And people still buy into it because they won't listen. That's the only time they'll ever listen, if you don't get people buying in and investing their money. Right? You literally look how this is. People are going to invest their money. And invest in it wisely. I'm not saying buy into AW because I've told you to. No. Do your own opinion. You look at my friend TNS Attitude here on YouTube, Ollie Harper. Right? He wanted to go to Slammiversary for TNA. Too expensive. Because it was a kicker because the hotels were expensive. This is the sacrifices we've got to do. He's been to that many WrestleMania. He's been to that many WrestleMania. Getting tongue tied, I do apologise. He's been to that many WrestleManias. He's now going Forbidden Door, and he was planning to go to Raw. I think he was, and a house show, but it was out of his price range. What's that say to you? What are you doing to the fans? And then he's coming to Forbidden Door. That's what I mean. It's just like I've said about the money he's pricing out the fans before, and many times on my uploads. You know, that's all they care about at the moment because they're not caring about the weekly product. How can I say, right, since WrestleMania, even before WrestleMania actually, I would say one match stands out to me this year for WWE. When I've had a clinic of matches with the likes of AEW. But that's all I'm saying, guys. Thanks for watching anyway. I know it sounds a bit of a rant every time I come on. At the end of the day, I just feel like it needs to be talked about, you know, because at the end of the day, you guys are the only ones I've got to talk to about professional wrestling. That's why I started a YouTube channel in the first place. And I thank you enough. Until next time, guys. Catch you guys soon.